What's up, everyone? So I'm just doing a little progress video, just a little intro to the video, really. So I recently started the hp90 swap on the Magnum. We got the trans in, the rear cradle, the whole differential assembly with axles, brakes, everything. It was a pretty smooth swap. There's been a lot of chatter online about how the hp70 and the hp90 doesn't work in the older LX cars. It's hogwash, and this video proves it. So if you ever question whether you can do an hp70 or an hp90 in one of these older cars, you can. The only thing that I had to do was use a Sound German engineering kit, and it basically is the standalone ECU for the TCM that allows you to be able to use that transmission in the car with the newer shifter. So it will work. Aside from that, the only other thing that wasn't in my original plan was the external oil cooler for the trans. I just ended up not wanting to do the internal cooler to the condenser because my AC system is set up the way that it is now with the chiller, and I didn't want to take away from the chiller and possibly not being able to hook that back up with the newer condenser because I don't know if the lines are the same. So as of right now, the car's still on the lift. The rear tires are off. I have to bleed the rear brakes. I have not done that yet since putting the cradle in because I did have to remove the calipers to get the brake calipers off. I probably could have pulled the upper control arms off and snuck them out. I didn't really care because I knew I was gonna have to, pull the whole cradle anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. So, rear cradle's in with the differential, the axles, the brakes. I've got the drive shaft in and hooked up. That's pretty much it. And then trans, I've got that bolted in, the starter's in, the torque converter bolts are in, the flywheel is connected with the torque converter bolts. I had to buy 2 new bolts from the bell housing to the engine block because of the ones that come from the front side of the motor. And because the original ones wouldn't work, the thread pitch was different. So that's another thing I learned as well, was that the original bolts that go from the block to the transmission are different. So you have to buy ones for a newer vehicle, otherwise they won't work. So if it is an hp70 or an hp90, you have to swap those bolts out. Aside from that, we're just getting ready to get it back on the ground, get the old cooler lines ran to the new cooler, which I think the cooler will be here Tuesday. Once that's here, I'll get it mounted, I'll get the lines ran, put the exhaust back on, and then I'll probably start the wiring, which isn't going to be hard. I just have to figure out where everything goes and get it all spliced in there. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's just going to kind of briefly go over everything that I did with a couple of little pauses here and there, but hope you guys like the video. Stay tuned. We're just going to keep posting as we go, and I'll continue to post stuff on the Tap Performance page once I get that stuff going. So all right, so we're back in the garage. We're doing the rear end swap, or the whole cradle swap, I should say, on the Magnum. Got the wheels off, the calipers are disconnected. I had to remove the drive shaft and get it out of the way. So as you can see, got my jack stands up on the cradle, so once I start pulling the differential up, or the car up, I should say, the diff should stay down and I can start kind of unhooking stuff. So give me a little bit and I'll have this sucker right out. Oh yeah. Oh, that was a bitch. Doing it on the floor, sorta. It's kind of falling off the jack stands there a little bit. But I was able to get everything disconnected. I've got new shocks for it. I've got new springs for it. It's all factory stuff. Like I said, I'm not going crazy with the suspension because I don't need to. So I'm gonna get this thing out of the way here, or at least scoot it out of the way where I can get the other cradle in here, and maybe, yeah, I don't know, we'll see. I just gotta get the sway bar links off real quick, and then at least I can have those off. Pull this off the jack stands if I can by myself, and then might end up just waiting until tomorrow to really do anything else, because it's already kind of late and I'm tired. I don't feel like doing anything. So anyway, we'll get the new cradle back in and keep on rolling. So there we are. Rear cradle is out of the car officially. Calipers I kept on. I actually have another set of calipers I'm going to put on it that are not all jacked up like those are as far as the coloring goes. But hardest part shit was getting the emergency brake cable off. But be a couple parts I transfer from this one over. The wheel speed sensors is one, and actually I think that's pretty much the only thing I'll transfer over from here. Yeah, just the wheel speed sensors, because that's pretty much it. Everything. Oh, and the sway bar links, because those are shortened for my wheels, because I've got the 17s on the rear. So all right, there we are. Hellcat rear cradle in the car. I'll have to drop the back down a little bit because I got to put that bolt in right there, but the cradle itself is in. It's ready to go. I'm gonna probably replace some of this stuff. It looks like this car was from the north, you know, maybe in like Minnesota. Anyway, cradle's in. Gotta do the links. Put the short ones in there. Got the new shocks in there. Got the newer springs in there. We're good to go. Brakes, rotors, speed sensors. All that is back on. Still no diff, but that's all right. Just getting this thing back up and going. Pain in the ass. It's crazy how all of the wheel speed sensors like literally go in like the same spot, even like down to the push pin holes where the clips go, and even the little clip here just slides into the backing plate of the rotor. It's crazy. Just shows you how similar these cars are. So we're down to the last few pieces. Got the differential in, the axles are hooked up. I'm waiting on my bolts to be here tomorrow. Drive shaft is in, bolted up to the trans. Heat shields back on. Wheel speed sensors, e-brakes hooked up. All my bell housing bolts are in. I do have my cooler lines. Those will be going in probably tomorrow. I've got some custom AN fittings that I'm gonna be putting on them to run an external trans cooler. So the reason I'm doing an external trans cooler is because if I change the condenser, then I've got to pull the AC out and, you know, basically replace the condenser. And then I don't know if the new condenser is going to have the line fittings that I need for my AC to hook back up. So I don't want to mess with any of that stuff. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run some hose from the factory steel line. Once it gets up to the rubber part, that's where I'm converting it to the -6 fitting. It'll go from the -6 fitting to the transmission cooler, which also has some -6 fittings on it, and then I'll just run the cooler off of the condenser, just putting it in front, you know, just so it gets cooled just like, you know, the stock condenser does and the stock trans cooler will. So once I get that, then I'll be ready to put the exhaust back on, you know, and the cats and everything, and then bolt everything up and get it all wired up. So stay tuned.